Okay, our topic this evening is on healing a leaky gut. We started it yesterday and we are going to conclude with it. And it's quite an interesting topic, but the thing about it is that so many of us can have problems and not recognize where it is coming from, what is causing all of these problems. And so we're looking at our gut health. It is quite important to know that when a baby is born, does a baby have its own immune system? No. So the baby is dependent on the immune system of the mother. And so in a natural birth, as the baby comes through the birth canal, it picks up antibodies there, and so that aids the baby in having something to work, a passive immune system for at least its first 2 years of life. After that, it is anticipated, as nature would work well, that the baby would develop its own immune system and carry on. A lot of times we have babies being born through C-section. And when that happens, the baby then has a greater susceptibility to infections and other autoimmune conditions because it did not pick up the antibodies from the mother. So lots of times individuals like that can have lifelong illnesses if they don't build up their own immune system. But then for us, others too, at some point in time, we may have problems with our gut health, irritable bowel syndrome, and many others, as you will see, that is as a result of poor intestinal permeability, or what we titled leaky gut. There is a microbial zoo living inside of all of us, and we're literally millions of microscopic organisms, more than 10,000 different kinds of microorganisms living within the human body, and especially within our gut. And you have the beneficial bacteria, and you have those that are harmful and that can cause problems. And what we want to do is that they coexist with each other. But the thing is that there are times when we may be exposed to certain toxins and other elements that would cause the bad bacteria, or those which can be harmful to the body, to be increased in number. So the majority of these are good. They help with digesting our food, protecting us with antibodies, which are like the soldiers that go to fight off any virus that comes to attack the body. The antibodies will say, okay, I don't know you, you are foreign. You look like something that we should get rid of. And so they develop the antibodies. They develop certain little soldiers that would specialize in fighting them off. And many times you find that when you have like injections, that's foreign to the body. And so the individual may fall sick for a couple days. It's because the body didn't recognize this is, like a virus that's coming, some bacteria, and it doesn't have those soldiers to fight them. They're not equipped to fight them. So with the vaccines, what happens is that the body creates these soldiers to fight off that particular virus. And so in the future, if you were to get that virus coming to you, you already have antibodies, you're ready to fight them off, and you don't fall ill and sick. But you don't have to go to the vaccine to get that. By simply, eating well, building your immune system, that you can make antibodies from an initial exposure to a virus or bacteria that comes your way. And through that initial exposure, you work through it, and it takes time, because sometimes you may get a virus and the doctor would say, well, it would take about 7 days. And because we have this rhythm of a cycle of 7 days, and every 7 days, you can get that healing coming, And the antibodies can develop from that initial exposure. So the next time a virus comes your way, you're able to fight it with no problems. So that's what the whole immune system, how it works for us. And in fact, about 80 to 85% of our immune system is within our gut. Hence the reason for us to pay particular attention to how we treat our bodies. And so they outnumber, looking at the friendly bacteria, they outnumber you 10 to 1, and 90% of your genetic material, such as your DNA, RNA, it's not yours, it's all about bacteria. All right, and that's how our bodies are. You have bacteria in your gut, in your skin, in your nose, different kinds on your earlobes, all over the body, inside and outside. Now, here you have some friendly and unfriendly ones. So these are the unfriendly ones and some friendly bacteria inside of your gut. So it's very much like a plant. And the plant, you see it looking nice and healthy on top, you will anticipate that in the soil, that must be a rich soil for this plant to look great, so healthy and powerful. But if you see a plant looking shabby and feeble, then you say, the soil there is not rich. Something is wrong. And so the gardener will go and put salt into that soil, or put some other nutrients to fortify the soil. Or you might say, let us make a little compost and give the soil some nutrition. And with our gut health, if it is poor, then we are poor in our health. And so it's like the soil of our bodies. Once it is healthy, we ourselves will be healthier. Now, when the gut flora is compromised, you find intestinal permeability or leaky gut is the end result. Whatever happens in the gut does not stay there. It filters out to other parts of the body. So there's this little picture about a bucket. Think of it like the holes coming out, within our small intestines. But how does that come to be? Our intestines should look nice and clean like this. But if we have large amounts of unfriendly bacteria, such as Candida albicans, it can cause our intestines to look like this. And when that happens, you get a lot of problems. You can get like skin rashes, dry hair, dry scalp, dandruff, thrush on the tongue for the younger ones, and lots of other issues. So that intestine, it actually can get damaged, and you can have like holes within the walls of the intestines that will be, right, so here I have a picture. So whatever should remain in the intestine actually gets leaked out. So here is like a carpet that's nice and wholesome. Think of it like a strainer. If you wanted to, say you made some juice and it's pulpy, and you thought, well, let me strain this, you could put your strainer and you'll get the juice, but the pulp, you want that to remain and stay out. But if your strainer had holes in it, little tears in it, when you strain your pulpy juice, what do you think will happen? Huh? Okay, so some of the pulps would go down into the juice itself. And so that's exactly what happens. So in our intestine, it can get little tears, little holes. And what should stay within the gut lining, within your small intestines, all the way down to your large intestines, it gets leaked out into your bloodstream. Now, it's like between the wall of your intestines is just like one cell thick between that and your bloodstream. So it's whatever is, on the inside, if it's unhealthy, it's like when the sun shines on the wall, on the outside of the wall, if it's so hot, you can feel the inside of your wall, and the temperature of that will be hot too. So the same thing with our gut health. If that is poor, you find that it's so easy for our blood to be impure. But how does those cells, so those cells that are between the gut lining and your bloodstream is about 1 cell thick. What happens too is that the cells are there and they're tight, and nothing could pass through except what should pass through. It's very selective. So you eat and you get nutrients from your food, and you need iron to get into your blood to keep you and free from anemia and so forth. You need calcium, you need potassium, you need phosphorus. All of those minerals, they can pass through that cell wall. But there are certain foods, the bulky foods, chunks of pieces of food that should not go through into your bloodstream. Large molecules of proteins that should not go into your bloodstream. But when you have intestinal permeability, when your intestine is damaged, it gets through into your bloodstream. Now, that is foreign to the body, and the body now will seek to attack and deal with this foreign matter within the bloodstream. So you have like one of the proteins that are large that can get in there and shouldn't be within the blood is gluten. So gluten is a Latin word for glue. It's what gives that dough or bread the chewy, gluey finish. And even as kids, I don't know if you, like me, thought it was a real cheap way to get glue to stick your pictures in the book to carry it for the teacher when you took flour and mixed it with water, and you could get stickiness on the paper and stick your pictures in there. So that's what the flour has, this protein element in it that is gluten. It's glue-like, and it's what you take and you make your bread and your pastries. So it's pasting, pastries. And so that, gluten. Then you also have like bad bacteria, undigested food particles, toxic waste that can leak from inside your intestinal wall to your bloodstream. Undigested food particles. You see the connection here, even with the proper principles of eating, with taking your time to chew your food. I tell folks that there is no teeth within your stomach. You have to take your time and chew that food, and the longer the food spends within your mouth chewing, the greater your digestion will be. But when those undigested food particles come down the small intestines, there's a foreign land, let's go explore, and it gets out into your bloodstream. Toxic waste. If you're exposed to the pollution out in the environment, you have chemicals within the home that you're using for cleaning and spraying the bugs and so forth. When you inhale those things, it destroys your intestinal lining. It makes it weak, and it can form those same tears that we're talking about. So if you also have used in the past antibiotics, say for example, you had some surgery, some health issues, and the doctor gave you lots of medication, steroids, antibiotics, then when you ingested that, what would happen? It's an assault to your intestines, and it would weaken it and cause it to have tears within it. You find that women, when they have yeast infections, you'd go to the doctor, and what would they give? Antibiotics, which would heal for the moment, but then, so you had the virus. You go and you get antibiotics for it. It's a virus, but you really should get something antiviral. But anyhow, you do get antibiotics, and so that breaks down your immune system, and now you have yeast infection as a result, and then you go and you get more antibiotics to deal with that. It's a whole vicious cycle. But what that does, it breaks down those tight junction points of the microvilli in your intestines. And what do you see happening? Gluten, microorganisms, toxins, everything gets passed through the walls and into your bloodstream right there. The end result, you can have nutrient malabsorption, autoimmunity, food intolerance. And a lot of people say, well, I can't eat everything, or when I eat certain foods, I will get a headache, or my sinus will increase. What do? Treat your gut, and it starts from here, because it's the same food that you're eating that comes all the way into your bloodstream, and then you're getting the reaction. So there's a blood-brain barrier breach, and then systemic inflammation sets in. When these foreign elements get into the bloodstream, the body's first response is to create inflammation. And when it does so, you find that sickness and disease can be increased. Another effect of having leaky gut, what else do you think gets leaked out? Not only that which is bad, but the good stuff. So like your B vitamins would get leaked out into your bloodstream. And now you are B vitamin deficient. You can be B12 deficient. You can also have be anemic because of B12 anemia. You get also zinc that's leaked out, iron that's leaked out. All of these minerals, they don't help the body. They're not where they're supposed to be at the time, and so you can have deficiencies in them. So another thing is that you would also have autoimmune conditions that can step in. Arthritis, for as the inflammation sets in within the blood, wherever there is a weak link, you find that that is the point that would be affected. So if it is you have some joint issues in the past and you ate the flour, for example, the pains will come. At one time, I was sitting in a workshop, and then there was a break for little refreshments. And when we resumed, we had some group activities. So the person who stood next to me around the table, as we were bending over working on the activity, I heard her clearing her throat, like, and so she wasn't like that before the break, but you'd hear it and like a mucus behind the clearing of the throat. So I looked at her and I said, you're allergic to something. She said, yeah, I don't know. I said, you're allergic to gluten. She said, yeah, how did you know that? I said, because of, you weren't like that before the break, and now you're all like that for eating the little pastry stuff. And she said, yes. So back in Trinidad, we have Carnival. And so she said that when she was preparing for Carnival, she wanted to fit into her costume, so she wanted her tummy flat, and she decided she would not eat bread. And she recognized that she felt lighter and she had no joint pains. She also used turmeric to drink, and that helped to take care of her situation. However, when Carnival was over, she went back to eating the bread, and sure enough, the joint pains came back. And that's one of the ways that you will be able to tell how you are doing once you apply the treatment. If it is that you go back to certain foods and you get the same effect, you know that your intestinal lining has not been healed and sealed. So wherever there's a weak link, it could be inflammation that affects the brain. And so you have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, and it all started off within the poor gut. So symptoms of leaky gut, all over the body. So let's look at the brain. Depression. So when working with an individual who has depression, mental issues, back away from the bread. We put them on a special diet, a wheat-free, gluten-free, allergen-free diet. And as they back away from it, giving the body a chance to heal. Anxiety, attention deficit disorder, foggy brain. A lot of people think, well, I don't remember well anymore. Why? Check the gut health. When it comes to the skin, acne, rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, any rashes on the skin, itching on the skin. Some folks will just be itching for no reason. There was a gentleman that we were at a program, and that Elder Rufer mentioned in Morvarnt, and we were teaching there, but we talked about the preparation of grains that needs to be cooked for at least 3 hours so that we will not suffer any mineral deficiencies such as zinc, copper, iron, magnesium, and calcium, or interfere with the enzymes for digesting protein and starches. So as we talked about these grains that need to be cooked for at least 3 hours, and even that some of the flour you would need to toast beforehand and toast oats, this gentleman said, you know what? I will just leave bread alone and I would not eat it. So it must have been like about 8 months later, he met with me, to go over some other issues that he was having. And as we chatted, he said, one of the benefits from attending the programs, as I changed my diet, my itching stopped. So there's some folks that they go to the bathroom and they bathe, and when they come out, their skin just itch all over. So he said, his itching stopped. And but before that, he had mentioned that he was not using bread. So when he talked about his itching, I smiled and I said, you know why it stopped? It's because of the gluten within the bread that you were allergic to. And as you stopped using it, your itching stopped. And so he was able to see that correlation right there. Now, thyroid issues, with the autoimmune reaction, your antibodies can attack the thyroid gland, something which is great for you, but you can have that autoimmune reaction. Gaining weight, difficulty losing weight, constipation, diarrhea, bloatedness, gas, candida albicans or yeast infection, adrenal fatigue. These are some serious health issues that are being listed here, all connected to poor gut health. If your adrenals are fatigued, you find that you'd have problems sleeping, your heart rate would be abnormal, then your stress levels you'll not be able to have the stress levels managed properly. You go through moods and other kinds of situations. We talked about the joints, the arthritis, headache, chronic pain, frequent cold, flu, and food sensitivities and sinus issues regularly, just having sinus continually. When you see these things happening, you need to change the diet and address the gut health. Now here, okay, so 80% of your immune system is within the gut. When the gut flora becomes abnormal, your immune system simply is not normal. So other kinds, multiple sclerosis, lupus, allergies, neuropathy, let's see what's different. All of those are some of the symptoms that you can experience. See the head inflammation in the brain. So the causes of it. What about let's look, the meat and the byproducts. These meat creatures, so the chicken and the cow, as we eat their food, the antibiotics that's fed to them makes you immune to antibiotics even when you may need it in an emergency situation. And as they are fed the antibiotics, you eat it. It affects your hormones, and as well as, you would be ingesting antibiotics. So you would think, well, I'm not using drug medication, but if you're eating the foods that are loaded with them, that passes on to the eater. It is within the tissue. And so even the eggs you can have, that can affect your gut health. Then you go to the meat. Once they're fed with the hormones, it passes on and it messes up your hormone, and it would give you a hormonal imbalance. Then we look at the dairy. So anything coming from the animal, if you eat the flesh, if you drink the milk, if you eat the cake with the dairy in it, the cheese, the ice cream, any of the foods, as long as it has the dairy in it, the antibiotics and the hormones that affect them is within that ingredient. So when you're getting milk, it's not just for protein that you're going to get. So folks who say, I want to eat flesh foods for protein, to increase my protein intake, it's not only protein that you're getting. You're getting all of these toxic elements that those creatures were ingesting. It passes on in their tissue and in their milk. Use of genetically modified foods, such as soy. These are a list, like about 9 of them here, that are genetically modified foods. You find soy and any of the soy products as oil, milk, and the bean, and the lecithin. If it is not organic, it is genetically modified. And by eating it, it causes the leaky gut. Corn. If it is not organic, it is genetically modified. And so if you use the corn oil, corn meal, the corn starch, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup is in almost everything, from the baby foods right up. And that will cause the cold, the flu, the sinus issues, and wheezing, asthma conditions, even in the young ones. I remember some time ago with my nephew, he was just like about 4 months, and my sister said she didn't want to give him dairy milk because she had to go to work. So she expressed some milk, but, as a backup, she had soy milk. And he would use it. But the thing is that he came down with the flu, and it grew worse, and he started to wheeze, and it grew worse, and it came to pneumonia. And then what happened now, he was in the hospital, and they're struggling when the doctor's working on him and so forth. And I was away at the time, and when I got back home, the first thing I did was to pick up the tin of milk and turn it around to the ingredients. Ingredient number 1, high fructose corn syrup. I said, there's your culprit. It's not dairy. You think you're using soy, but there's stuff in there that can cause a problem. Took him off that soy milk, and the problem went away. He never had another occasion of flus, and even that it would get to the point of wheezing and have to be hospitalized and do the nebulizers and all the rest of it. So be careful with these things. Oils, such as in cotton oil, genetically modified. Read your labels, because a lot of the health foods have cottonseed oil in them. And if it's not organic, it is genetically modified. When we ingest it, it breaks down our intestinal lining. Canola oil, sugar beet. By the way, canola oil, another name for it is what? Rapeseed oil. Yes? Rapeseed oil and canola oil is the same. They're genetically modified. In fact, in the past, rapeseed oil was used in Spain in industries and in the machinery, as oil in the machinery, as they oiled it up and so forth. And the individuals, people who were working within those industries, as they interacted with it, they fell sick. Some of them died, some had deformities and so forth. And what happened is that they stopped using it. And then the industry said, this rapeseed can give oil. Let us take out the toxic element from it and give it back to humans for consumption. And so that's what they've done with the plant, remove that toxic element, and processed it and gave it. In some societies, they don't even call it rapeseed oil because they know it has a stigma and people would leave it. So they've changed the name to that of canola. And it's interesting to note that it's the Canadians who were doing the the engineering. So sugar beets, alfalfa used as an hay that would be fed to animals. Hawaiian pawpaw, the pawpaw that's big and juicy and nice, genetically modified. It's not natural. If you think back when you were younger, what pawpaw used to be like and look like, it's different from what it is today. Zucchini and yellow squash, and all of those are genetically modified. So these things can cause intestinal permeability. So with the gluten grains, wheat, rye, barley, spelt, and kamut, those can cause intestinal permeability. When it comes to making the changes, we want to leave off those items, those foods, give the body a break. And then what you would do after you give a body a break of it and use certain supplements to build your immune system back, as well as to heal and seal that gut lining, we would find that you may be able to put back in organic wheat and not have problems, but only when your gut lining is sealed off and that the tears are closed up. Sugar is another one that can cause damage to your intestinal wall. Chronic stress can cause that. So people who are stressed and anxious and all the time and fretful can have these issues. Hence the need to be at peace with ourselves, with others, and with God. Toxic overload, such as chemicals that we may use, as well as large amounts of medication, can cause the problem. Then there's supplements. Too many will weaken and lower your immune system, increasing the unfriendly bacteria. And then you can have bacterial imbalance that can cause the issues. So how do we actually heal and seal that gut lining? Because for all the different effects that we've called out here, one or more might be related to you that you would think, well, okay, I think I better look at this. So how do we do that? Number one, what is our method in disease reversal? We need to turn off the faucet or the tap as we reverse the condition. And we'll do so with our diet. So we start off with a cleanse. If you stop to think, when was the last time I had a purge? For some folks, it might be decades ago. It's time to take a purge again as you start to clean up the body. So we want to start with 3 tablespoons of castor oil along with 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And when you mix that together, I see the smiles and I see the nose twitching. So when you mix that together and you ingest it, it gives you a nice purge clean out. Then others that you can use, Cascara Sagrada, like 4 capsules, and you use like twice a day and drink warm water, every 15 minutes behind that. But then you can also use senna. Some folks might like to use senna. What you do is cleanse the bowels. And then you take out all that which will cause problems for your intestines. So the flesh got to go. Those fish, they're loaded with toxins. In fact, you have something where you call biomagnification with the fish, where small fish exposed to toxins in the water, it gets toxins within its body, within its tissues. And by the way, fatty tissues love toxin. So if you have fatty tissues on your body, it loves toxins. And if that isn't enough, you have a fatty brain tissue that will grab up toxins, and you find that you have brain-related issues. Seizures, for example. So the small fish takes in the toxins in the water, and you have a toxic baby, small little fish. But medium-sized fish going to eat small fish. Medium-sized fish already has toxins in and of itself. Now, when it eats the small fish, it takes in more toxin from that. So what about the big fish, where you like to see the big slab of meat that has toxins in and of itself? Will eat medium fish that has eaten smaller fish, and so you have biomagnification of toxins within the fish. Human being now exposed to toxins in the environment and, struggling and going along life's journey, go and eat big fish that has all these toxins within it. What is it going to do to our bodies? What does it do to our intestines? It breaks down that cell wall and causes problems within the body. Fish being also the second leading cause of allergies, and you find you have sinus, you're sniffling all the time, and you have skin irritation, skin rashes, and lots of other issues. So take them out. It's the fish picture here, but also you have all forms of flesh food, pork, crustaceans, poultry, eggs, all of them. Take them out. The dairy, got to go. Milk, cheese, eggs, butter, ice cream, got to go. Wheat, take out the gluten foods. So that means no baked, bun, tart, no form of bread. All of those, we remove them from the diet. And folks are beginning to think, well, what will I eat? There are lots more food. So anything coming from wheat, rye, barley, spelt, the grain itself, or the flour that comes from it. And then there's a list that we have what to use in terms of going gluten-free, what to use and what to avoid. But basically, it's the wheat, rye, barley, and spelt and kamut. Then remove all sugar, and there are natural and artificial sugars. Those you want to remove from them, and when I say natural, I mean like the regular ones, sorry, not the honey or agave. And then tea and coffee, those cause irritation to our intestinal lining, so we remove them. Alcohol, wine, cider, vinegar, those got to go. Antibiotics, take them out. Environmental toxins, when you interact and use those pesticides, that can penetrate the skin, get into your bloodstream, and that will cause the problems as well. Genetically modified foods we take out. What do you eat then? Use your ground provision, use your rice, and all ground provision, and there are different kinds of rice that you can eat for your carbohydrates. Then we also want to cook our grains properly so that you would not run into mineral deficiencies. Be careful also with oats, because sometimes oats can be prepared in a facility where it gets cross-contaminated with the wheat. So that's why you'd see out there gluten-free oats, meaning it's been prepared and packaged in a facility that had no wheat on its compound or within that room. Then you find the peas and beans. We need to cook them properly, low, slow, consistent heat that we would use for our peas and beans. The longer you cook them, the more digestible they would be. And so if you find that when you eat peas and beans, you get bloatedness, gas, passing wind, or indigestion, it's because you have not cooked the beans properly enough. It needs to be cooked longer. And eat lots of vegetables. Vegetables and these are vegetables that would be steamed until tender. That acts as a prebiotic food for the beneficial bacteria within your gut. Use the pink Himalayan sea salt, flaxseed, grounded daily, zinc, as you would get in pumpkin seeds. It's helpful. Selenium, you would need to help to rebuild that wall. And you can get that by using 3 Brazil nuts every day. Almond nuts and walnuts provides copper, another element that you would need to heal your gut lining. Drink adequate amounts of water, and one of which would be like lemon early morning in warm water. Exercise is important. Take time to relax because remember, stress can increase it. And get adequate rest at night before 10 p.m. Use natural cleaning agents. Vinegar can clean, your kitchen counters without using those chemicals for cleaning the home. Plants purify the home and gives you a better quality of air. Then there are herbal recommendations. Garlic would be helpful to use 4 cloves of garlic, and you can heat that up, sort of roast it, and then eat it. Bioccult, it's a probiotic, and Bioccult is one that is recommended. You find it here. It's manufactured in the UK, along with a digestive enzyme. So you get the probiotic, get the digestive enzyme. And by the way, we talked about sinus and flus, even the hay fevers that folks would suffer through the year at certain times. This is all because of the poor gut situation. So you'd find that we'd recommend this readily. Turmeric, it also helps. 2 tablespoons to 4 cups of water. You also have betaine HCl, and kelp would also be helpful. So I will send the getting adequate amounts of sunlight because, again, vitamin D deficiency can be a major cause. So I'll arrange to get the handout. All who would like to get a handout on this topic. It's pretty extensive. It covers all what we've said within the presentation. Okay, so I'll email that, and the church will print it and have it ready for us. So do we have any questions? Quickly? No? Okay. So granted that the information has been clear, again, as you pay attention to these, and when you get your sheet, put it into practice. You can work and test yourself. Maybe you'll have a consultation with us. And when you see we make these recommendations, you'd have a better understanding as to why we're making them. Continuing this week, we have our medical missionary training. That starts at 10 o'clock and runs from 10 to 6. And we also, just to make sure that we take care of everyone before we leave, we will be doing consultations. And a lot of folks would require consults, so we're running some group consults. Make sure you get on them because we will still take care of you. How it is done is that when we have the group consults, times being 11 and 4, and so as folks come in, we sit with those who come, and we go through some basic information, and then we pull out one at a time where we will do your treatment for you. Because lots of the information goes with the teaching and the basic foundation, the 8 principles of health. That is covered for general health for everyone. But then we will get into the specifics of your particular treatment. So your information would not be shared. You can ask questions, but your information would not be shared. It will still maintain its confidentiality. Yes?
Yes. When is the consultation? Will it start tomorrow or something?
Yes, tomorrow. We have 2 sessions tomorrow, one at 11 and then at 4. And work with us as we, sit with folks and give them their treatments, which shouldn't be very long after.
How can individuals get their personal consultations?
Right. So once we sit with everybody, then we would afterward meet you on the side in the room where we would look at your forms or get your forms. If your form is filled out, it will be helpful. So the forms would be out on the table after the program. So if you want to come in for the consult, get your form, the lifestyle assessment form. That you need to complete. It will help us to be able to help you. And then as we pull you aside and we sit and we do your treatments, in that way we're able to get everybody taken care of. Because if we sit really one-to-one this week again, we wouldn't progress to that. So feel free to ask your questions in the class, or even when you meet and you have a burning question, you can ask us then. But at least that's a method that we will be using this week. So we'd like to sing our song as we transit to the next portion with Elder Weaver. It is Signs of the Times. While we change the slide. Could I get a volunteer? Amen, I have music.